the right size pot that I wanted. So I have actually these clear pots, which I absolutely love. I got them on Amazon, we'll say. We'll use that if you know what I'm talking about. And what I'm going to do is I have a Burle Marx here that this is one that I propagated, and I got some gloves too because I just like working better. Sometimes I like to feel the dirt, but then other times I'm just like, you know what? We're gonna go with gloves. So you can kind of see just by looking at this clear pot, that's quite a bit. I guess I could get away with it. And then there is one that's a lot bigger, and you guys can kind of help me decide. I could, to be honest, because of how many roots I have, I could honestly do this huge pot here, but a lot of times philodendrons in general, even though you don't, thank you, even though you don't want to do too big of a pot ever, you're gonna have a lot more luck with philodendrons, especially if the roots look like that, with not having to worry about if it's too big of a pot. So I'm almost tempted, even though this is bigger than what I really want, but there was no in between. I almost am tempted, honestly. Ugh. It's like I do, but I don't want to do it. But I'm tempted to go ahead and just put it in this big pot here. It's a little bigger than what I really want. What do you guys think? Anybody have an idea what they think I should do? Should I put it in this big of a pot? I think it will be fine. Or I could go with a little less than what I want to do, which is, the nice thing about the clear pot is you can kind of see where the roots are. You can see all that. It fills up the whole pot. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do this. We'll do this, and then we'll just upsize when we need to. So what I'm gonna do is with the clear pots, like I said, I got this on that Amazon, you know, that store. And this is my own potting mix that I make. And I hope you guys can see what I'm doing here. The clear pots are great. So when I'm potting this, when I'm doing any kind of potting, what I do, all right, I think the clear. Thank you for your suggestion. I appreciate that. So what I do whenever I'm holding up the plant or I'm getting ready to pot, I always put like a bottom layer in so the roots are not sticking out. And then I kind of like hold the plant up, and then I just kind of turn it around and then let it, so the roots were actually getting into, the soil's actually getting into the roots. Because I don't know, I don't like air pockets. I think it's not good for that. Of course, we're gonna water it down, all that. But now that I've got it kind of stabilized somewhat in here, or actually like where I can put it, sometimes I'll hold the plant up all the way when I'm actually doing it, just to make sure that I got it placed where I want, but it's actually placed where I want, so that's good. So I'm just gonna keep on pouring, back filling the dirt in here. And that's the nice thing about the clear pots, is that you can see exactly.
So there's several things that I add to my aeroid mix, and there's lots of different ways that you can combine this. But while I'm kind of mixing up my pot here, I'm going to go over some of these things real quick with you. As the base, you want to use a peat moss or some kind of basic potting mix soil. A lot of people like using things like Miracle-Gro, or I really think that Fox Farm is really good. A lot of people like that. And that helps with moisture retention. The next thing is some perlite, or preferably pumice, but pumice is more expensive. This helps with the drainage, and it really basically helps for your soil to drain, and helps with just your soil to breathe. And then the next part of the mix is just some other amendments that you can add in to really help to get your drainage right as far as the soil. And then the rest of the mix includes things like cocoa chips. This helps with drainage, orchid bark, or you can use pine bark. That works just the same, basically. That also works for drainage. And then there's charcoal, which helps to filter and purify your soil. And then you want to use some kind of long-lasting fertilizer like Osmocote, or I guess you should say slow release fertilizer. So Osmocote, or you can do worm castings as well if you like to use more of an organic fertilizer. I can always do another video on the ratios of each of these things if you'd like.
do peat moss, and I usually do equal parts of peat moss, perlite, although I'd prefer to use pumice if I could in place of the perlite, just because of sustainability reasons. But if you know about pumice, it's so dang expensive. Then I do cocoa chips of some sorts. I'd use different kinds, and I also do sometimes orchid bark, and all those are equal parts. And then also I do usually a 50-50 of, well, except for the I don't know if I said charcoal yet, but I do 50% of charcoal in 1 cup, and then also 50% of oh gosh, I can't even think now. Can't even think. Sometimes, you know, when you're trying to do 2 things at once, it's hard to think of what you use. So, but anyways, so those are my main things, but I have one of them, equal parts of everything except for the charcoal. I'll do half of the amount of the others. And then there's something else I definitely do Osmocote. For some reason, I'm thinking I don't do my Osmocote 50%. I guess I do use a lot of Osmocote and sometimes worm casting. So if I'm using worm castings, then I would do 50% of that. So that actually looks really great. Thank you for whoever recommended doing the clear pot. Now that's the great thing about the clear pots is you can actually see the entire plant. And you can see here that I do have one area that's hanging over. The thing about the Burle Marx is that it gets very, very kind of gangly looking. And a lot of times it will just kind of start getting very gnarly and it loses its shape. It kind of goes crazy. So this will probably end up eventually later needing some kind of support. But even right now having that kind of hanging, I guess I could always cut that off if I wanted, or kind of settle it down there, but I don't think that's going to work. I'm just going to let it do its thing for right now. And then I always like to water right afterwards, but I don't have anything. I didn't come the most prepared, but to do the live, but I am going to probably try to do this because you just make it work, right? And I'm going to actually take the water once again. Don't ask me why I do this. I have no idea why I do this. If you guys, anybody out there, do you guys do this stuff too? So I'm going to go ahead and pour the water that was in. I like to do that, and you'll start to see what happens. This is the cool thing about the pots. What happens is you'll start to see some of the soil settle a little bit, and then you might need more on the top. I always leave usually about that much from the top because I found, especially if there's a really peat moss based, majority of it's peat moss, it's harder to water obviously, and I just feel like it's all wrong when you do that. So you might have to, after watering it, you might have to give it another little scoop of some of your amendment. And then I really like the see-through pots. I really do. I think there's something about it, and the plants like them too. So especially anthuriums and things like that, aroids in general, they just absolutely love the see-through pots. And it's a great way to be able to start seeing your plant grow, the roots grow, and all of that. So I'm gonna set this aside as soon as it stops leaking here. Yeah. You know how you just kind of make things, I think as plant people, one of the things that we do is we just make things work, don't we, right? So I just poured the water that was in there. And then I'm gonna put this to the side. And so maybe it's a little unsteady there, but put it to the side. There we go, okay. All right, okay, so what's next? Well, let me show you guys, let me kind of get my space cleared a little bit here. And I'm gonna show you guys the next project that I didn't think I was going to be doing today, and if anybody wants to know, this is the charcoal that I use for this mixture right here. And I got this on that, that very famous place. And I don't like saying on this because sometimes it does weird things, dings you and stuff like that, or shuts off your light and stuff like that. So, but that's the charcoal that I use. I really like this one. I like there's a lot, I mean, honestly, I don't know how you tell the difference between whether charcoals, I guess if it's a powdery charcoal, super powdery, I don't like this. I like when there's actual chunks in the charcoal. I used to get, this is going to drive me crazy with thinking about my soil amendments. Let me go through them. So charcoal, cocoa peat, peat moss, cocoa chips. I do Osmocote that's the long releasing fertilizer. And I do orchid bark, which I used to get the orchid bark, the Miracle Grow ones, but then I stopped doing that because Tanner the plant guy said to get the pine bark actually in big bags. The only thing about that, I've done that and it is a lot cheaper, but you actually have to kind of break up the bigger pieces unless you get the nugget size ones, and even the nugget are a little bit big. So I do orchid bark in there as well. And then why, for the life of me, and then perlite. In perlite, like I said, I prefer to do pumice if I could, and sometimes I will, and especially in plants that are a little bit like my anthuriums, I prefer to do the pumice in that. People use things like tree fern and all kinds of things like that, and I think that's great, and I do want to start using that, but tree fern is just so expensive, and I don't even know where you go if you have to have it from a certain place, or if I could even get it myself or do it myself. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, there are some people that will actually try to get sphagnum moss. I don't know what people feel about that in general, but I know that some states are like that. I don't know if Oregon is one of them, but I've seen creators who have actually gone on out to the woods and gotten some sphagnum moss. So, whether or not that's a good or bad thing, I have no idea. I have a baby spider plant. It's super cute. So these, if you have baby spider plants, this is a very common plant, but it's a very endearing plant, and there's just something about it that I love. Plants that just, you neglect them so much and they just say, please, please, just give me a little love, give me a little love. And then you give it a little love and it gives you so much. And I feel like the ZZ plants like that. And then some plants are like, don't give me any love, just leave me alone, don't talk to me. That's more like your cactus. They don't just, that's why I put my cactus really, they're on up there, the tallest shelf of all of them. But there are some that say, I can tolerate this BS, but if you give me love, I am going to thrive for you, and I'm gonna show you what kind of wonderful, spectacular that I am. The Monstera is kind of like that, and definitely the baby spider plant, which, they're so easy to grow. And then Tradescantia is another one, especially the Zebrina Tradescantia. They're like that. So this is another one that, even though I have a really cute one sitting on my my window area, and it's got little baby spiders coming off of it. And so I don't know. I think this actually came from it, and I don't know. It's one that it's a very common plant, but it is just a little love. That's all it needs. So once again, you're repotting with me, and this is actually just more or less not repotting, but I'm actually just transferring things from water propagations, and I'll show you over again here. So got my little pot here, got my baby spider, and then what I usually do when I'm potting up water propagations, this is just my aeroid soil mix, is I'm gonna go ahead and put just a little bit on the bottom for this one. I really look at the roots and kind of see what they look like. Now, babies, or spider plants in general, they get these tuberous, that's why they can go a long time without water. They get these very tuberous roots on them, so that's why they can go a long time. There's some people that will ask questions like, oh, I didn't realize you can keep plants in water. Well, absolutely can. The real problem where you get things like root rot is because you're almost like smothering it doesn't have enough drainage, and you're smothering the roots. With water, the problem with water is they could technically stay in there forever, but the water doesn't have nutrients it needs, and that's what the soil provides for that. So that's the reason why. And so I would definitely say that maybe you need to change out the soil, and I would probably do it soon, because you will start, if you are kind of smothering those roots, you're going to start getting that root rot. So the soil that I make, cocoa chips and pine bark and pumice or perlite, those are all things that help to kind of aerate your soil a little bit better. So then it helps prevent things like root rot. And then also just making sure that you are not overwatering your plant. I think sometimes that's a problem too that people have. Some of us, those over lovers. I recommend putting your cactus or cacti on your top shelves, so you don't want to get up to the top shelf. But here's my little baby spider plant, and I feel like I need to itch my nose now. Of course, once you get your gloves on, you got to itch your nose, right? And so then there's the little baby spider plant, and I will probably water that one just a few. But I want to show you guys something. Oh, got one more. I'm tempted to put this in its own. Yeah, we're gonna put it in its own. So I got another one, and this probably could have used a lot smaller, but I'm just putting this in there. I used a lot more perlite on accident in this mixture that I did. I don't always do mine exactly the same way every single time, but it works. And then, one thing, if you're potting stuff up and you know, 2 months later, a month later, you're like, my plant doesn't like that. Change it out, you know, and that's how you learn things. You know, obviously, like I said, those chunkier things, that means that it's not going to probably retain water as much. Things like vermiculite, peat moss, obviously, are all going to retain water. Well, let me show you guys. Oh, look, let's show you guys this. I've got, and I thought this was just, this has like almost like water deposits or something on there, like calcium. We have really hard water. Look at what we've got there. We've got a little baby snake plant. This one happened by accident, and you can actually take cuttings, and I think what I was trying to do there is I did the whole V cutting like everybody does, and then I got a little baby, I forgot about it, and then there's a little baby plant. So I'm tempted to go ahead and maybe pot that up too. Now these do, like, sometimes you can add things like even a little bit of sand in your, but I'm not gonna do anything particular for this. I'm just gonna put it in there. It's easy, or snake plants are definitely a type of plant that are really tolerant of all kinds of conditions. And so, you know, if you're someone that's kind of starting out, they're also air purifying as well. They are on NASA's list of air purifying plants, if you didn't know that. And so I really enjoy, they're another kind of, give them a little bit of love. But be careful about not too much water, because definitely these will definitely rot. So I will go ahead and put this one to the side, because that was one that I totally forgot about. And let me see if there's one more in there. So I did have a Monstera Peru that was, oh, that doesn't look good. So this one's kind of been in there forever, but the roots kind of look not so great. I would normally probably wash my hands after touching that. I don't like the way that looks. That makes me sad, because I feel like, I don't know if you guys have any issues with propagating the Monstera Peru, but I do, and I don't know why. I can't figure out why. I'm usually really good at it. Maybe I just need to put it in soil and be like, screw it, it's good, let's do it. Screw it, let's do it. So I may just end up putting these in soil, because a lot of times what some plants will do is they'll start shooting out a hormone that actually tells them that, hey, we're in soil, we just got cut, you better start getting with it, because we're not gonna survive if you don't do it. So this one, like I said, I think we had some root rot going on there. I mean, I hate to, it's just a little tiny one. This is the Monstera Peru, which is such a pretty plant, by the way, but I don't know what my problem is with taking care of the Monstera Peru. So I don't know. That may look like a little bit too root rotty. And I mean, I guess I could always try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, I could always try to trim those off and then just see what we get from that. But yeah, I'm gonna put that to the side for now, and then we'll figure out something later with that. But the main thing that the real thing that I wanted to show you right now was actually, so I have all kinds of plants everywhere in my house. I have terrariums, like fish tank terrariums downstairs. I have 12, and I have a whole plant room, huge plant room. It's the biggest room in our house, and there's these as well. I thought it would be kind of fun to do this. I love the look of terrariums, but let me move this over just a little bit and kind of, in here, I've been having this probably grow for about a year. It's important whenever you can seal them off in the first maybe like couple weeks, month, you really want to pay attention to whatever's in there. Now, everything that was in here was really little. Now this has turned into a jungle that is just too much. I had begonias in there, and what I like to do sometimes is I like to take them all out and then start with something completely new. I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes I think it's just nice to refresh if you're someone who wants to keep it in there forever. But I'll tell you why I decided that I need to do something different is the lid actually was kind of tipping over because one of the leaves was starting to grow out and said, hey, let me out of here, let me out of here. And so I was like, you know what, maybe that's a sign. Begonias are great for terrariums, peperomias are great for terrariums, little pileae are great for terrariums. I've got a watermelon or Peleonia plant in there. I've got several things in there. And sometimes I'll even do like sphagnum moss. I don't do anything too special. I make sure there's, as far as the soil in there, I do make sure that at the base that there's some kind of gravel or something like that. But this one was looking great for such a long time, and then I think it just overgrew. What I do a lot of times with these one in particular, I actually propagate from leaves, begonias from leaves, so I can actually propagate this begonia. I can propagate peperomia leaves. So I'll a lot of times take and put the things that I propagate into these because it just makes them grow real easily. So what I may do is I may end up trying to, usually what I'll do is I'll start cutting off some of the leaves, the ones that I want to propagate. It's kind of the circle of life. So like if you look at the back of the leaf, and this won't propagate very well, it's kind of some rotting, but if you look at the back of the leaf, whenever you have a leaf that's got some veining in it, the juicier the veining is, the better that this will work for propagation. The other tip is I like to make sure that I get the base put into the soil. That's a really good place for the roots to start in sphagnum moss, but I always like to pinch off. Some people like to have the stem on, I do not. You could probably try to grow it from the stem. I just have found better success in sphagnum moss, particularly in like little plastic containers, when I completely take off the stem there. So this would be the part, and I always make sure this would be the part that's going to go into the sphagnum moss, and we could try this as well. Sometimes there's this feeling that you just know when it's not going to be good in the sphagnum moss, and this one's kind of, I don't know. But even pieces of leaf like that can grow into a begonia. So this is a Rex begonia, and they're very, very beautiful when you take care of them. I have the black mamba begonias that I grow in here sometimes, but these are ones that have just been wanting out. They really, it's time for them. Some of the leaves are just, they're not living their best life in here. So that's what the begonia look like. I don't know what kind of begonia, but once again, you look at the back and you can see kind of that squishiness that you got there, or that like juicy looking veins, just like if you were thinking about someone's arms. And you could, like I said, you could technically probably propagate. Look how tiny, this makes me sad. That's how you know when it's time, it's a little bit neglected and it says, hey, I need out of the terrarium. When it's got a little tiny baby leaf. Not always though, sometimes, but this is one of the top ones. So, but yeah, so, you know, how I would normally do this is when I'm assessing the terrarium, I just start picking stuff out. I pick, obviously, the leaves that look good. Like this leaf, I don't think that I will be able to propagate that, but I can try. Hey, actually, look, even, this is kind of funny, but look, it looked like it already tried to propagate itself. So this was a leaf that fell off and it was at the bottom, but it didn't attach correctly. This is why it's so important when you have it like in sphagnum moss to press it all the way down, because it actually was a leaf that fell off and started to grow roots. So that's what will happen. So this one's, I don't know if that one will revive itself, because when it starts getting really wilted, usually that's just not enough for it to sustain itself in those little new terrariums that I'm going to make it into. But what I usually do, like I said with the terrariums, is, and this is kind of an awkward table, I might have to take this outside to do it, but if the ones that are kind of coming out, I will pinch off the leaves, and it may seem like really like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? That's terrible. But it's really for the health of the plant, and a lot of times you may lose the base plant, but then you'll get 10 more. So it's whatever the way that you want to do it. Just make sure that whenever you do this, it's got super high humidity with whatever you end up putting it in. So I'm going to take this huge leaf right here, and I'm going to pinch it off, and here's one that will definitely hopefully propagate pretty well. Looking at that. And then what else I got in here? And you want to make sure when you are propagating that you do it the same day. You put it in that sphagnum moss. So if you're new to propagating leaves, and that kind of seems very intimidating to you, then what I would recommend is having everything ready. And, oh, look, the peperomia, poor peperomia, see, looks not too happy. So it looks like it somehow got unattached from the soil. And this is one of the reasons why when you have it in terrariums, that you want to start kind of, and I'll put that in some water, you want to start kind of assessing your terrarium. Now this is one that I just kind of had to the side, and like I said, it overgrew. I wasn't really paying a ton of attention to it, but it's still, I mean, this has been over a year. This has probably been 2 years, maybe 2 years. And this one is one that fell off, and I guess it started growing some little plants from it. So that's kind of nice. I'll put that one. I might just put that one. And I think that might be the watermelon, actually, Rex begonia. There's one that's really just pretty distinct, and I think that's it. So I'm going to put that in water just for now. And then I got some pileae or baby tears that are intertwined in here that I'm taking out. And these will all be great too. You can even see all those little they were really needing some dirt because they were just kind of hanging on there. So I can put this in sphagnum moss in a little plastic container. You can use anything. You can use Chinese containers. You can use or fruit containers. You can use croissant boxes, whatever you want to use. The biggest thing is don't use the one with the like those. If you're gonna have, maybe I shouldn't say Chinese containers, because usually those tend to have like a black bottom, and you don't want the ones with the black bottom on it, because I think it allows for less light in there, and it's just not as good for it. They don't grow as well, and I have done this 1,000 times, so I can tell you that I tried. I wanted those to work because I like recycling. But here's another leaf. Got another leaf there. And you want to make sure that you do this as soon as possible, like I said, because you don't want these to be out very long. Or over, I mean, I wouldn't even wait over a day, but I'm just cleaning up this terrarium that's kind of been neglected for some time. Usually they'll sustain themselves. This I might be able, even though I don't like doing the stems, I might try to maybe propagate this in water, perhaps, but I would want that to callus over for a little bit. Begonias like a lot of humidity, and they'll stand a lot of water. So I've got several things here. It looks like I've got a watermelon Paleonia, which you can see there. I think that's some kind of peperomia. I don't know what kind, but thank goodness I pulled that out. That was one that probably ended up rooting itself, because there's no way that could still be that little from the original plant. So yeah, so I'm taking that out, and I did take the whole begonia plant out. And let's see what else I've got in here. So I've got more things, and wherever you do this, it's gonna get a little messy, so just be aware of that. So then here's another, it's got a peperomia and also the watermelon Paleonia. That's a really cool plant, by the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and take out the second begonia plant, and it's got some little baby tears attached to it. That's super cute. Baby tears love terrariums, they absolutely do. And then this is the second begonia, but you can see this may be better suited for an open terrarium. I have lots of begonias in open terrariums, fish tanks, downstairs, and they love it. They absolutely love it. So let me assess what else is in here. So I could propagate this, but this is not a super juicy looking peperomia, and often these like this do not do well. But I will still, once again, take that stem off, and then I will place this right into the sphagnum moss. I don't think I really have much else in here. I think everything, and what I will do is probably freshen up the dirt, take some of it out, kind of assessing. The dirt looks actually pretty good. I'm just assessing what the dirt looks like. I'm gonna move it around a little bit, see if there's anything that I missed. Everything looks really pretty good. What I probably would do is, you do wanna, with these terrariums that have closed lids, you do want to make sure to open them every now and then. You could open them once a month and then just seal them back up. And then I find that to be very helpful. And you could also do kind of some clippings and things like that, cuttings, just to keep it trimmed and all that. But that's the thing, it's kind of this weird double-edged sword, where it's like people that like a lot of times having things like terrariums, often the reason why I like having them is because they're kind of self-maintaining or maintaining themselves. So that's kind of a double-edged sword, because then we forget because they're so busy or whatnot, and then we don't do that. So I'm just kind of mixing the dirt around. The dirt actually looks really good. I'll probably add I'll take some of it out, and then I'll probably just refresh it up with a little bit of peat moss. Maybe I'll do some fertilizer, and then I'll put smaller plants in here. I have lots of propagations downstairs. I don't know which one. It's a little bit, not stressful, because it's not stressful to me, but there's a little bit of like extra care when you first put the new plants in here, even though it may seem like, oh, it would be good at that, but you have to like do a fine balance of watering when you put the new plants in the terrarium, because if you do too much, it will rot. If you do too little, it's like the roots won't stick, and then you'll lose your plants. So it's kind of a really, really, really delicate balance there, but it's really a great thing. So if you absolutely love terrariums, if you enjoy the look of them, I highly recommend them. Just know that there is still maintenance required, just less. If you're someone that's wanting to grow kind of like begonias, like Rex begonias and things like that, when you propagate begonias, Rex begonias, from a leaf, they'll be really small at first, and they are great when they go in here, but they will be the biggest growing thing in your terrarium, so they really are better suited for like a fish tank. A fish tank just makes more sense for something like a begonia, Rex begonia. So, but all kinds of things you can put in here. You probably want a little bit slower growing things, just because, like I said, one will take over, and then sometimes it will kill the other things. You could, and I know crystal lovers out there will probably say, no, 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 no. You could put crystals in here, but there are some crystals that will start to have issues with their coloring and all of that when you put them in a high humidity situation. But here's the thing. This is, if you go get a cheap crystal and you just like the look of it and you enjoy it for a year, let's say it looks great, and I've done that. Hey, you know what? If that year and that, I don't know, $5 crystal gave you joy in that year, to me it was worth it. I don't know. I have this weird philosophy. I don't want to waste money, but at the same time, sometimes things don't last forever. And so, you know, if the crystal is in there and you're getting joy from it and it starts to lose some of its color, but you still have joy from it, hey, you know what? That's what life's about, is using what we have, not trying to always just save it for a rainy day, or not rainy day, but save it for a special occasion. I guess a rainy day, whatever you want to say. But that's what life is about, is living that kind of that balance of knowing that, hey, we want to take care of our stuff, but at the same time, I also want to enjoy myself. I also want to see, and if that $5 gave me joy, I'm doing it. So this is what we're left with, is just a big container. And where did I get this container? This was actually from Walmart. It's actually a great price for the size of this. It was $20. And I got 3 or 4 of them. And I would highly recommend, I don't even know if they have these anymore, but I love these. These are great. And then for those of you that are kind of tuning in, I'll show you what the top looks like. It's just a cork, and it just sits on there like that. And it's really just, you know, obviously this is all messy and dirty and gross and stuff like that. But when you clean it up and all that, it looks spectacular. It looks really pretty. I have one that has like that rainbow moss downstairs, and it's taken over. Rainbow moss will take over. Rainbow moss is really cool, but it will take over. If you've seen the blue rainbow moss, that's really cool looking, but you have to give it a right amount of light for it to keep that blue. Mine actually